Started out as a play written based on a photograph for No Theater in Binghamton. That's K-N-O-W. But I realized it worked better as a story. I met her for coffee, one of those online dating things. Her name is Lola. She carried a huge black umbrella, even though it was a sunny day in June. She wanted tea. I made some crack about meeting for coffee doesn't actually mean coffee. I hope not, she said. No smile. That made me talk too much, chatter about nothing. I always drink my coffee black, I say. Unless it's instant, then it needs all the help it can get. I drink my tea black too. She says, things cannot be diluted. What do you say to something like that? I babble on. I'd ask you to tell me about yourself, I say, but I already know from our online chats that you're between jobs, have a black cat, and like electronic music. And she says, my cat died. Still no smile. Fine, maybe she doesn't know how. I say, that is sad about her cat. Time to change the subject. I ask her what she'd like to know about me. She says, your roommate is your college best friend and you have a dog. Like I don't know this. Then she says, you are very cheerful. I thank her. I am not cheerful, she says. I am a grief counselor. I ask her where she works and she says, it's who I am. What? I think that, but I don't say it. She continues, but it's not why my cat died. At least, I don't know if it was. I never had a pet before. I tell her about my dog, a yellow lab, who's even more cheerful than I am, although I'm feeling less and less cheerful. I met a dog once, she says. He was enthusiastic. That sends me back to babbling. For some reason, telling her about my mom's birds and how the one with the clever name of Greenbird would call the dog sitting there in the coffee shop. I imitate the bird calling the dog, Cody, Cody. She says, we are too heavy to fly. Excuse me, I say. I could never have a bird, she said. I'm afraid of birds. I asked if a bird had ever pecked her or something. Greenbird once took a piece out of my finger. She shakes her head and says, walking down the street, there are pigeons and sparrows, that's enough. I ask her if that's why she carries the umbrella. She says, sometimes. This was not working. I ask if she wants more tea and she says that she has to go. I say something like, nice meeting you, and start to stand up. Then she says, we will nest on your doorstep. We will lie beside you in bed. Stealthy and soft, we wrap you in a blanket of fear. Sudden and sharp, we make a hair shirt of regret. Dark and damp, we rain down grief. While I was staring at her, my cell phone rang. Awful news. Awful. Car crash, the worst. He said I'd be right there, but I couldn't move. Lola handed me the umbrella. You need this now, she said. Nice to meet you.
Eric, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so I have just a handful of poems to share with you. They have fantasy involved with them, and some of them are brand new. I thought it would be a good time to share some new stuff and see how it sounds. This is one based on what we're all in right now. Stuck in the funhouse. Walls of glass, reflections of fluorescent rods, flickering yellow, white, red. Hallways that press in on mirrors of shoulders, dead-end shoes. I can see woods, clearly make out the world growing spring. But here in this boxcar maze, I pace pathways like a lion on cement, heavy, tired, and sick from constant clowns, laughing from hidden wires, a final slump against a pain I cannot escape. The next poem is based on Beethoven. I submitted this and it got picked up by an anthology for Beethoven's 250th anniversary. And the title of the poem is Lock. Evil clings to hair like crusty fowlers on a boat hull, like spells in a witch pot, boiling over, brewing filaments that blaze hot, bewildering eyes into eighth notes with violent edges. Johann van beating drunken time signatures into his son's ears, leaving Ludwig straining to hear music blowing lightly across tessellated floors until Barber's broom sweeps it under evening mass when lead pipes whisper joy under the stained glass of a blind god. And I've been working on a series of poems that also bring in music because I'm also a musician as well. This is referring to a piece that Alexander Scriabin was unable to finish before his death. It was a huge piece that was meant to be performed at the foot of a mountain called Mysterium. Mysterium, after Scriabin. Dreams sleep at the foot of the mountain. Mists awaken as morning dew, voices encircle whole notes. As a fermata of strings grieves into the slopes, a caesura of timpani in my heart, a weeping child, God's light in a tear, broken xylophones, keys and colors dancing a new world of odes and oboes, haunting airs that turn and trill dark souls between line and space, a funeral march for no audience, an ecstasy of musical thought, passages toward nobler visions and bliss. And then the last poem is something related to our Ithaca area, since we have the name of Ithaca from the Greek. And this is called The Dream of Odysseus. I listen to the wind from year to year. Familiar faces haunt me through these days of singing through the storms. I silence fear as boats drift toward the invisible pier and masts keep time above my weary haze. I listen to the wind from year to year. Though lean times stalk me from the past, I near the shore after suffering the delays of singing through the storms. I silenced fear and gathered the frayed sails of my career as the Minotaur dreams in Minos's maze. I listened to the wind from year to year. Grace and fortune have kept my home sincere, and loving you has shown me all the ways of singing through the storms. I silence fear as the rudder cuts the water. I steer clear of dark horizons, recite a phrase. I listen to the wind from year to year. I sing through storms. I silence fear. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Eric. That was wonderful. Mythology, music, writing. I have thanked the arts so much during this time period because I don't know where we'd be without the arts and writing and reading and music. It's sanity right now. So thank you to the arts and thank you to all of you for reading. Next up will be Stacey Murphy. There she is.
Here I am.
I'm going to spotlight you.
Thanks.
Whenever you want to start. Thank you, Stacey.
Okay. So I have a couple different things. One of them is a short poem. Everything has been written in the last month. I spent April, which is National Poetry Month, coming up with small, really small short poems and sharing them on Instagram and Facebook, one a day. And I sort of called the series Small Poems from the Great Hunkering, because we are all hunkering. So there's like 30 of them or something altogether. I'm not going to read all of them, just a few of them. But before I do that, there was one that was really just one whole poem. So I'll just read that poem first. It's called To Sense Hope. How does hope taste? Does it taste like stones washed in a newly thawed creek, silty and just a little sweet and slow to warm, but permanent? How does hope sound? Does it sound like the laughter rising from Milan balconies, neighbors toasting each other, crisp flutes of wine? We are all here. How does hope smell? Does it smell like garlic roasting in oil, or the sweet heaven of birthday cake left on the doorstep for a 9-year-old? How does hope look? Like recovered COVID-19 patients leaving the hospital amid the cheers and applause of exhausted medical workers? How does hope feel? Like the ghost of a long hug and its wholehearted promise of many, many more to come in future days we can almost touch. That's that one. And all right, so these other ones are just, they're a bunch of small ones, and I won't read all of them, but I'll pick a few out. This was the first one of the series. The Great Hunkering. Soft pants dominate the weekly laundry. Near empty street, 4 pink galoshes dash past on 4 tiny feet. Chinese restaurant, closed for disaster. 1 fortune cookie left on the sidewalk. Outside the window, morning light on fox trotting down the street, diamond shine in tail. Cold April sunrise, electricity wire, robins warm their feet. I pull up dead grass. Birds carry worries away, transform them to nests. We hunker inside as weasels loot the hen house fox pretends to guard. How many more deaths? Who will be buried on Hart Island? Not one last hug goodbye. A gymnasium of sewing machines clacking. More masks, they chant. One more Earth Day gone. One more weathered barn reclaimed by the groaning ground. When rest comes at last, you might dream of deep forests, sunlight through tall trees, warming the moist and the mist that meets your breath greenly. Rain meditation. Swollen droplet releases its branch. Exhale. Junco's nest of old grass in my periwinkle. Who's to say where life will flourish these days? Fare thee well, April. Fare thee well, inside dwellers. Forward lone hearts spill. When the time comes to rejoin, may we laugh and be well still. Ian.
That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Very powerful and very timely. And I've noticed all the animals out, and I think they might be enjoying it. Just like deer, I think of the deer driving down the road and they don't have to worry about getting hit by a car. But
Right.
you captured all of it in one, like many nice poems. So thank you, Stacey.
Thank you.
Carolyn? Yep.
So I have some poems here that I wrote sort of on the influence of a friend who invited me for an anthology. She's an editor in California, a friend from Lake Como conference in 2014, and her press is trying to get a book about COVID-19 out soon. So this is one that I wrote, and with my poetry group support with Stacey in mind, I wrote this poem, and it's for Stacey. First, it's called Windowsill Prayer, a precursor to COVID-19, and it was written November 3rd, 2019. Let me polish my grief like stones from the creek, lucky stones pulled from time's passage and brought home to stay on the sill, quite well oiled still. Let me feel the refrain of repetition each day in prayers and thoughts that otherwise, like birds, would fly away. Let me feed them, my soul. It's hard to survive, to let yourself feel, to still be alive, to shake the quilt of open spaces that so few can have while COVID-19 cuts its wide swath. Let my sadness shine in tears, warm and salty, compassionate, real. That was the first one that I wanted to read today. There's another one called To the Mask Makers. And I wrote this as a thank you when I went to visit Bartels Hall on April 8th, 2020. And it's for Cindy, my childhood friend, and all the volunteers who barely looked up from their work while I came to see and reap for myself this amazing spectacle. After using the hand washing station and receiving a newly minted mask and a visitor tag, I'm let in to see inside Cornell's glossy basketball arena, center court, where in just a handful of days, you have made a difference. A makeshift factory where daily more well-coordinated volunteers jump to make new light blue masks, strong ones for health workers, those near the front lines, for vulnerable populations, for senior citizens, including me, as asthma's my night visitor, for all who soon will learn to wear masks, people and children, we all who now need masks. For how long, we may ask, for as long as plague-bearing Apollo of the far shooting arrows binds us in his sight, his curved bow tight, for as long as the merciless fates, Clotho, Lachesis, and dread Atropos, keep up their spin, apportion and cut us down, just to remind us of how fragile we humans are, our bodies, if not our spirits, worn thin by pandemic. Just so long, that's how long we'll need masks. And for this, your team, wisdom, strength, foresight, dedication, and resolve, I thank you, my friend, and all you volunteers. I thank you for making this year, this 2020 and COVID-19 and the unbearable lightness of being somehow more bearable. And that really struck me, how from November when I was reading about it hitting Wuhan and other places, just dribbling in my mind. Later, something happened, and this is the last poem I'll read, from my daughter, who is a social worker in Brooklyn. Intrepid wind, you ignite my house. I cannot slow you down. Pollen or Amazon or both, you keep delivering more and more than I ever asked for. Like children, our needs keep changing. Today, the printer, tomorrow, the pond pump. Yesterday, more one-a-days, vitamins to keep us strong. Me, sending masks and a thermometer via USPS overnight to Brooklyn, where the city that never sleeps is now a sensory deprivation box. And my youngest child's on fire as a coal that keeps reigniting. her jet black hair unwinding a coiled staircase over the courtyard in my dreams, moist and dark, Rapunzel's ladder, the only way out. Prayers also winging, though taking flight, angels land on breast and breath and shoulder to give us each statistic strength, hope, and human form. Thank you for listening. That's all I wanted to read today, and to just thank you also, because I had to get all the support I could to read today. This was by my mom and me, and that was always on my mind. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful and beautiful. And I lived in Brooklyn. I've seen what New York City went through. It's heartbreaking, and yeah. Oh, up next, Carol Rubenstein.
Very good. I'm okay. I'm ready.
You're ready. Okay, well, you can start, and we can all hear you. So,
hello. Thank you, Teresa Vadakin, for setting up this wonderful reading at your unbelievably wonderful library. We'll be all coming by very soon. I'll read two poems, both based on my time in Borneo, where I was collecting and translating oral poetry. Dayak man making fish trap. Thumb and forefinger make a cone, a corner. From this first pinch, the trap widens, catching the man's original move of mind. Riches of fish whip one edge of glitter as he plates bamboo and rattan, tucks each end tight. The cage of woven air is shaped to hold one fish. Down the columns of his back, taut with labor, his black hair streaks, must bring home one whole fish. Also, stop in at bazaar, what was his errand? Chant how the fish fulfills its timed increase, rolls sleek with doom. One more time it twists away just past the Dayak master's grasp. Now, tranced in place, both knife and fish alike await, keeping to keen alert. Dream fish come closer, slip where my hands call, my lovely, lush with silken fat, riddle of light, shining one. The cage lowered on its side now streams with impulse. Door knocks open. This first beaded form glides in, is locked in place. The rush of rocking, its push and slam. The eye, flat and huge, can bend light, would veil a world shaped to itself by whirling, marks its place in water, drifts into its last return. Here is a fish trap, skeletal in form. Webs of knotted light break open nets. The human call melts the time remaining into burning air. One whole fish, it is done. The fish trap stands, within breathes solid light. Singer from the edge of the green sky. Guardian of the tale, breaking through the green of sky, the singer first will chant, grant this song be properly sung. Then offerings and a second prayer. May the lords of memory arrive, stay near, protecting me. sung wrongly. The singer's life is ended, his feet forgetting where to go, himself gone. But rightly now, and open to his song, we safely listen. From his longhouse home, he journeyed through 3 days of forest, sent for by the headman of this longhouse. Would he sing for the visitor from across the sea? From veranda rafters hang the bark ropes of the swing. As the evening grows, the longhouse folk gather near, awaiting. Meramat Anak Embong takes his seat. This bard, arrived, gently rested, has begun his swinging down, down from the edge of the green sky. Leaning on the bark ropes, his arm thrown above his head, toward grief or joy or waiting, his feet rock him forward and back. Well, he heightens the tale, its arc foreshadowing every turn and spill. Only others also owned by night can know his shadowy calling up of visions. In liquid tone, his guardian bird will guide his passage. Truth alone must ripple, or the moon and sun will strike mute as stone that throat, far and steady, marking each continuance. It is for him to sing until the moon's light is gone from any reach, until the cock's beak splits open and the sun bounds up the notched log, entering the lost longhouse. Singer, never knowing if your lips will form the ending phrase, bearer of unbroken rocking lineage, its endless call and hope. Such is the night bird cry arising, a great risk taken. We watch the dawn, catch the swing of sky, found heady, its sky edging, now made green. Thank you. Thank you. Meramat Anak Embong.
Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
I love hearing poets read their work and writers read their work. It's just wonderful and such good expression and throwing your hands. Loved it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Katharyn Howd Machan, you are up next. So I'm going to spotlight you. And whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Teresa.
Yeah.
I have a series of poems that, well, you know, how do we know how stuff arises? But unicorn. Unicorn is the figure in all these poems. Unicorn could be female, unicorn could be male, unicorn could be gender fluid. Lots of different stories for unicorn. Alphabet unicorn. Always trots swiftly toward the house of names, never knowing if now it will be a bookshop, a pub, a bordello, a school, or even a gateway she might explore to visit another world. Growing up knowing how to write cursive, she's good at loops and connectors and flow. Ink from a fountain pen she bought at a fair, changing color from orange to purple, and sometimes bee-balm pink. Her own name has 26 letters, and she tries it forwards, backwards, in time to the rhythm her stride makes on curving cobbles, as she mouths new sounds and combinations in upper and lower case. And there again, at the end of the street, in the place she visits each afternoon, Today, it's a tea house with a crimson door, open to welcome all shapers of sound, with a cup of sweetest black words. This next one is dedicated to my dear friend, Kathy Morris. Photo unicorn. Sometimes climbs right into the lens and carries paintbrushes, brilliant paintbrushes, to get the color and angle just right in celebration of life. Glass and light and fear and dream swirl optically, whether day or night, and onto gleaming pages prance images rainbowed with words. As others look and see and smile, photo unicorn stretches and sighs. The world's a collage when we embrace art as a healing lover. Wicked unicorn. Works in a dress shop that sells only gold, bodices, corsets, girdles, belts, lame like the tongue of a dragon in heat, longing for liquid lascivious love. Wicked unicorn wears her tail in a braid, studded with nails forged by snarling elves, angry at hammering too many bright boots for princes to waltz in till midnight comes and their fathers growl out, "Get married." Wicked unicorn remembers her mother drinking too much rose nectar and falling down drunk into nets of the hunters who cut off her horn and threw her still breathing over the cliff where a rainbow waterfall gushed. Wicked unicorn keeps her own horn hidden, curled under the hat she bought in old Brooklyn, thin ribbons draping her gleaming neck where a single round locket glows. Another dear friend of mine lives in Big Pine. She's still putting her house back together after that hurricane. Hurricane unicorn stops all jokes when the wind begins to rise in ocean, tear at shore, blow horizontal hard green rain of broken leaves and sand. World's changing, predictors predict. Lowlands won't survive the melt. Unicorn looks at where she's lived 40 years and more. She won't use the soft word warming. She nods her head as grim as ice. She makes global destabilization fill her unsmiling mouth. Recently discovered is a new kind of praying mantis in the rainforests. Has a little horn on the top, and so it's called unicorn mantis. Praying unicorn discovered itself in a hidden forest where Earth is trying to right herself with rain and green and tributaries of the water of lasting life. Here, unicorn is small and graced with long, fast legs, a swaying head, an appetite for other creatures that scurry and climb smooth bark. It looks toward sky between thick leaves. It holds twig still when parrots fly. And from its head, a tiny horn vibrates silent words to gods that just might save us from the dark. Eric and I are very, very fond of the Greek island Skyros, which is the island that raises goats for That's the biggest goat provider for all of Greece. And when we go there, we love to go and find the goats and kind of commune with them with their little bells going. And he happens to have, which you can't see through his sweater, he has a particular tattoo that inspired this poem. Goat unicorn is so much like itself, it gets confused sometimes. Dappled on Wednesdays, horned on Fridays, black as an owl's hoot every other Sunday. Kid, doe, weather, nanny, its water trough shows its changing beard. No stanzas can keep it in, no metaphor can claim it. But there was that poet who gazed into its eyes with Pan tattooed on his arm. That day, it felt clear, wild love, the perfect hooves they shared. And I'll close with another poem dedicated to Eric, who just a little less than a year ago achieved getting his MFA from the Vermont College of Fine Arts. Vermont unicorn goes to study words in the Green Mountains, where his cousin used to run blackberry trails, and once a hurricane blew out the lights when his mate was pregnant and hoping. Vermont unicorn is a poet, a teacher, and music has always embraced his days. Piano when his hooves become fingers, guitar when his horn glistens bright. Summer, winter, in a like-minded herd, he writes villanelles, free verse, sonnets, lines that know how to sing from the page when he offers them in full voice. And when he takes his daughter riding, when his son's astride his sturdy back, how they echo with their laughter the magic in his heart.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Rich. Are you ready, Rich?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I did submit something for this year's poetry thing, but I can't remember what it went like, and I don't have it written down any place. So I'm going to read you some older stuff of mine. I'm going to start off with the first thing I ever contributed to Poem in Your Pocket Day. It's called Pizza. The best thing about pizza is the sauce and the cheese and the crust. Yum. Next thing is a haiku that I wrote about Ithaca, and here it goes. Ithaca, New York, lots of organic people, don't want to be one. Waterfalls galore, Tuganic, Ithaca Falls, we don't want a drought. Richie sing-alongs, guitars, songbooks, percussion, hear Rich sing 8-man. Fiona is dead, she was my favorite cat. Goodbye, East 8th Street. And I wrote that 3 years ago when I moved from East 8th Street. Next, I want to read a very, very short little haiku that one of my older brothers wrote when he was in high school, and I've always loved it. It's called Mr. Sad. I don't feel so hot. I try to do a good thing, and it goes away. I've always loved that. I've only got one more thing I'm going to do for you, and it's kind of a song. It's like a song parody that I did back in 2003. I was hired by the foundation to come up to write and perform a song for the donors of the library, and I decided to do a parody of the song Sea of Love. So I'm going to sing it for you a cappella. It starts like this. Let me see. Generous and kind the donors are, helping folks read and learn and explore in this wonderful library. We want to thank you and tell you how much we love you. The Ithaca Downtown Partnership and the hangar and the kitchen and whoever donated them Star Treks all 50 generations. We want to thank you and tell you how much we love you. Come with me to the Tompkins County Public Library. Whoa, whoa, wow. The First Edition Society, walk along the Discovery Trail. We get magazine subscriptions as we start to set sail. We're navigating a sea of resources. You've given us this art, You've given us art exhibits, donated books and CDs. Let us stay open on Sundays, gave us workshops for the teens. We want to thank you and tell you how much we love you. Come with me to the Tompkins County Public Library in Ithaca. Whoa, whoa, well, the story times and the music and the wireless technology brought to us by our donors, such philanthropy. Wee. Ahoy there, shipmates. We're navigating a sea of resources. We want to thank you and tell you just how much we love you. And that's it.
Thank you, Rich. I miss seeing you and I miss the library.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah, I miss seeing everybody, and it feels like so long ago since I was last there, you know?
I know. Okay, so Justin, you can go next and we're gonna get back to Daphne after.
Okay. All right, I've got 3 poems, and I want to say thank you, Teresa, for putting this together.
Of course.
And I really appreciated all the poems that I've heard so far. It's really nice to get visuals and things. All right, so this first one's called Links. Think links in this lamentable era, connected over electric lines, elected by eclectic times, collected lives let lectures slide, conjectures ride along ejected pride, rejected lies left with ineffective swine, COVID snide teams disrespected by corrective professionals undeterred by congressionals, dystopian vestigial in a chest full of confessionals, convivial vestibules colorfully impressed the Duchess dressed in jewels. Imagine winks in this celebratable, veritable, e pluribus unum, educated on plated vegetables, commented on panarchaic signs, selected semi-archaic mimes, ascetic wives let pictures whine, meldings glide along cedar's pine, shelvings right among readers' vine, dejected cries wipe our ears as eyes, coronavirus supine minus virus add lime, divide by spires add cypress spines upon sapphire, digress from mire to pious climes, digest, jest is offended at this suggestion, gesticulating at its own complexion, its deepest desire, divine perfection, live jest, motivational in this commendable era, think links. This next one is called Times. Lakes, holy supernova, goodness sakes, vernacular crepusculic flakes, provenance is eminent, your eminence is bakes, give me inkling how much energy it takes, Sheen. Tell me how much it's gonna take to raise a team. Show me how a formal gangster develops a lean. Full of light horse energy to reasonably ream. Positivity is such an activity beam. For show. Nothing and for internal new growth. Everything for supportive Panthers I've come to know. Moving deftly on the hilly snow. Recent fielded skewed and now in tow. Loud. Lots of people cheered and laughed amidst the sound. Poets gaze at art in lieu of looking all around. Scientists grew up magnifying sunlight near the ground. Proud and many light-hearted folks watching homeward bound. Rhyme. Percentages, mathematics happen all the time. Now I shudder when I hear corona and a Lyme. Tried to leave all viruses I hear so far behind. Came up to volcano, it looked pretty, so I climbed. Yin. Feels like cousin Yang, but tends to drink a lot of gin. Quite unlike my partner who I see above the den. Reached out to me helping even though I have sinned. Wear it like a lesson learned on my chest like a pin. Times. They say the journey is what makes it all so sublime. I don't think it has to be a continuous climb. Compartmentalized energy, securely confined. A lesson we learned made us all nevermore remind. And the last one is a haiku. It's called Spain. Spain in good God ground, evolved state of deja vu, stylish composting. Thanks.
Thank you, Justin. Thanks for participating and reading your poetry. And thank you for enjoying the presentation so far. It's been great. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, so you can, yeah. Thank you, Eric. That was wonderful.
Oh.
We're ready, so you can go. I think it was just that your phone number was separate from your picture, so I was confused.
Can I read now?
Yep.
Okay. The first one is called A Gaggle of Geese. The day will be long, so many things to see, so many things to do. Winds push me out of the garden, out of the house. My legs want to run away from all the undone things trailing behind me. In a haze of speed and noise, a car will be my transport to accomplishment. The road stretches before me, then tops a rise, where all my hurrying comes to a halt. In front of me is a gift from God, a gaggle of geese. And I love this gaggle of geese crossing the road at their own pace. I stop perforce and appreciate their meandering parade, alive with fluttering and quacking, taking up all the space from ditch to grassy ditch. They are so sure of their destination and importance, as was I just a moment ago. Now sitting still, I am grateful for in a moment of surprise, I've had my destination and importance brought to a standstill. And the next one, apropos of beautiful Ithaca, is called Snow in April. Snow in April reminds me not to be happy. Token warmth and the expectation of a spring day is about to get a slap in the face. The sun that pours in the kitchen window shines on night-fallen snow and on the busy little ants running across the counter who have come in. It's their spring right, or as they would put it, their spring right. The April snow that dances on every branch and twig sends a question into the air. The wrong answer to the question is, do not expect much. The right answer is an old saw. Good things come in small packages. And I add that in one of those small packages is happiness. And this one is called A Love Letter to Tomorrow. A love letter to tomorrow is my task for today. And I wonder where all my memories will go, people and things beyond count. Perhaps the earth will be missing to my frozen feet, but the sight of blue-petaled flowers, the impudence of bulbs pushing up, the smell of new grass, will penetrate the interstices of the stone wall behind the garden, sharing space with the snakes and spiders who call it home. And they will have to share space with all the spectral bodies in my life, who sport faces, brains, and passions that light my days and nights. My presence has filled the air for so long. It will take time for all the breaths I took and breathed out again to disappear. I am alive now, the proof is in the pen. And tomorrow, when I reluctantly leave this place, I make room for the continued spinning of a blue-tinged earth and the voices of another and another and another poet. And this one is called On Wayward Thoughts I Will Not Dwell. My hand runs down his knobby spine, and up again I say, you're mine. I feel your weight. I like the smell of sweater gray. And I can tell you are my Scarlet Pimpernel. The mystery man who brings me tea this night makes no demand on me. Though crass demand is what I lie for, his hand, his touch is what I die for. My wayward thoughts are short of sorrow, hope lies sleeping till the morrow. My urgencies must shrink, not swell. I hear him bid a light farewell and watch him leave, Sir Pimpernel. That's all I have, unless you want, if I have more time, I can run and get another one.
If you want to run and get another, sure.
Well, I just happen to have, you know how that is.
Oh, I know. One more and then I'm going to unmute you all and thank you.
Thought I lost my phone. This one is called A Penny for Your Thoughts. When I curl back your fingers looking for the penny I put there with some innocence only a day ago, you open your hand and we see that under the burning sun your smell and sweat have almost melted it and me. A shiver runs up my arm, only a copper drop remains. Days have become years, and my bones are drained of metal. What I want from the gods is not a silver moon. I'll put in your hand willingly all the gold of my hair, if we can be granted just one more day. One more? Last one? Okay. This is called Grateful for Small Favors. For 2 days, I had a terrible pain in my foot. I could not walk or put my foot on the ground. I could not drag on a boot. See then, I am not a hapless king suffering in a Renaissance palace. I live in the rocket to the moon 21st century. And I was given a magical medication which, true to its promise, sent the pain away. But behind the promise lay serious threats. I might have thinning blood, suffer heart damage, headache, nausea, insomnia, depression, an attack of hysteria, or dizziness. I would slip on the ice, squint in sunlight, shudder in the rain. I would lose all my best friends, I searched the small print carefully and looked for the worst thread of all, which was not there. It did not say you may not write a poem, so I have written a poem. That's all I've got.
Well, I want to thank you all for participating today. I have recorded it, so if you do not want to be recorded, I will have to edit it. But can you email me at you all know my email, I think, because it's on everything that goes out, tvadakin@tcpl.org. But if the recording, if you cannot be recorded, just let me know. I'm probably gonna have to work on it a little bit before I put it up anyway. And I will put it up on our YouTube channel to begin with, and then figure out how to get it up on Facebook.
That's lovely.
So thank you so much. And this meant more to the library than anything. It was so wonderful to share in writing today and hear writing and hear writers. It helps so much during this time period, I think, for all of us. And maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but it really was powerful and poignant. So thank you. And does anyone else have anything to say?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I look forward to waiting on people again when we open.
I agree.
Yeah.
Hello. Where's
Hello.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
Katharyn, I recently found your poem just the other day in a fairy tale magazine.
Oh, yes.
Lovely picture going with it. And I just thought that was a really cool synchronicity, and I wanted to share that with you.
Yeah. She's everywhere.
Yeah, just when I say hear you.
Anything else?
It was really lovely hearing everybody. Thank you all. It was nice
Would
to
you
hear
be
the range of
interested in
everybody.
another one?
Yeah.
A virtual reading?
I will yet understand how to Zoom.
Okay. I'll put one out there in a little while. And
Of it, little alleyways of it, but not the full Zoom. I will, in time, I should live so long, understand through Zoom. I love it. Wonderful.
good. Well, thank you
Thank
all
you.
for coming.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. I love this.
I'll see you soon, I hope.